Hello and welcome to our today's Coffee and Consulting. My name is Friederike Ruch and I'm happy to chat with you for the next 30 minutes about the kind of new travel authorization forms which we have for the UK as well as for the EU. So before we start, I have two administrative points. One is on the right-hand side, you will find our slides from today's presentation. If you would like to download them, then do so while we have the coffee and consulting. It also will be recorded and we will put it on then on YouTube as soon as it is ready, so you can also listen again to it in case you want. Then the last bit is as well on the right hand side you will find a box with questions. So any questions you will write down during the coffee and consulting event, we will try to answer or answer them if we can just after the presentation. If you only have a question then afterwards, which is also fine, then just drop us an email or call us and we will answer then your question. Why did we choose that topic? We had already a couple of calls and questions from clients around this, and for planning purposes, then we thought, okay, it might be a good idea. We started to plan with that event beginning of the year, when also the idea was for the European forum, the ETIAS forum, that it might be implemented this year. Now, as with all those projects and lots of different countries involved, different IT systems as well as other systems involved, there is a delay, and it should now come up the ETIAS travel authorization starting in 24. For the moment, there is already most of the stuff is kind of finalized, so we can provide you with whatever the current status is. There might be then changes until next year, so we will definitely inform you and keep you updated on any changes during this year and then beginning of the year before it then will be definitely come into force. Now, the ETIAS form, the form for for Europe is not, or for the EU, better to say, is not something which just the EU started and came up with the idea. It is the US started with that, with the ESTA travel authorization, and if you look then at the ETA travel authorization as well as the ETIAS one, you will see they are more or less the same, or it's in a similar way set up. It works in a similar way, so that is not something completely new and out of the blue. The US one, we have already some experience with it since it was introduced in last year in October. Finally, the UK one, the ETA travel authorization, which we will look in a moment a bit closer, will start by 15th of November. Now, it will not start for all of the countries, but just for one, and then the follow-up will be next year. And the ETIAS one, as well already said, will only start and be implemented in 24. It is not known whether it will be beginning of the year or mid of the year or end of the year. I think we will have to see how they proceed and progress, and then we will see. It is expected by mid of next year. That much we know for the moment. So let's look at the UK one. I mean, because the US one we have already, I mean, we know and we have some experience. What will change, or how will the UK one work? The UK one is, as the US ESTA travel authorization, same thing. It is linked to the passport, so it is relevant for whatever passport you will ask for that travel authorization. You need to travel then with the same passport. In case your passport changes, you definitely have to do a new ETA form. What will you be able to do with that ETA travel authorization? You will be allowed to come to the UK for up to 6 months for tourism, visiting family, friends, business, or study. Which is, if we look at the ETIAS form, the EU form, you will see there it's only up to 90 days. So that one is a bit longer as the EU one, but we will come to the EU one in a second. It is for coming to the UK for up to 3 months on the creative worker visa concession. That is something which just was introduced, and or for transit through the UK. So those are the 3 things you basically can do. What you can't do is just based on the ETA authorization to just work on it. So in case you do work, you definitely have to get a work permit for it. You are allowed to multiple re-enter the UK based on that, and the validity of that ETA is for 2 years. But as said, it is linked to the passport. So in case the passport changes within those 2 years, you will have to request a new ETA. What it will cost? It's not known yet. We will have to see. Most likely it will be something like £10. But at the moment, the UK authority have not indicated what it will cost. And as already said, it will be implemented, or the first time it will be implemented and coming into force will be in November 23. So who does need such an form? Basically, it is for any person who does not require a visa for entering the UK, which would include also Swiss nationals, European nationals, because they don't need a visa. Now, it starts on the 15th of November with the Qatari nationals, and then on the 22nd of February for the nationals from Bahrain, Jordan, Kuwait, Oman, Saudi Arabia, and the United Emirates. When it will be then introduced for the Swiss nationals or EU EFTA nationals, which is also foreseen that they need to do that, that will be communicated later this year. What you always can do is, there is a kind of checkup tool on the website from the UK government. And here on the page, you see the link where you can go to, and then you can check whether a visa for a certain national is required, also whether that ETA is required or not. And who does definitely not need to get an ETA? That is British or Irish passport holder, in case someone has a permit to live, work, or study in the UK, as well as a visa to enter the UK. And then there is a bit of special requirement for someone legally resident in Ireland. So if you would fit, or your employee or the individual will fit in one of those categories, then you don't need to take care of the ETA. That's not then for you. The process is quite simple and quick. The application has to go through the ETA app, or can be done online on the UK platform. The decision from the authority will be taken within 3 working days. And then after someone has done that, you will get an email confirmation that the ETA application has been approved. In case now the ETA application will not be approved for whatever kind of reasons, because what behind the scene will be done is there will be a check-up in whether, for example, the individual has been not allowed to enter the UK, for example, in the last couple of years, whether there whether they will find that person on any kind of list somewhere, and then there might be that the ETA application will not be approved. Then there is the possibility to either get a standard visitor visa or a temporary work visa or transit visa. So those are the options, as well as there's then the option that you can go and object against the approval, and then just go the legal way and legal procedures in order to, first of all, find out why it has been refused, and then secondly, whether there is a legal way to still get it approved because of maybe misinformation or whatever. And that is not something which is not happening at all. They are still, I mean, not just with the ETA, because there we don't have any experience yet, at least not from the UK, but from the US one, there is a certain number which they just will look into closer or refuse, and then because they don't have the right information, or maybe just some misspelling as well on the names or something, and then it can be easily corrected. Now, what we did was as well, we just tried out the travel authorization checkup tool and visa tool, and there it was then you have to indicate your nationality, and I put in Switzerland as I wanted to check what a Swiss national, if a Swiss national wants to visit the UK, what needs to be done. And then is the checkup whether there is a visa required. Certainly not, because I said I'm just coming for tourism or visiting family and friends. And then you see what your choice will be. So there are a couple of other categories you can also tick. And then based on that checkup tool, there is then the information that definitely there is no visa required, and then indicating that I need to check whether the standard visitor eligibility requirements are met, and I can stay in the UK for tourism for up to 6 months without a visa. And there will be then also the link to the ETA electronic travel authorization, where you can check whether that is required or not. You also will find on the website there that they indicate what you cannot do, and one of the things is, and we had a couple of cases where someone thought, because there's indicated that there's no visa required, then as well, that means for just going to work in the UK on an assignment basis for a couple of weeks will then also be okay without getting a visa. But that is definitely not the situation. So as soon as someone is really working, you definitely have to get a work permit. So that's about the UK one. Now we will move on to the ETIAS, the European Travel Authorization System. Basically, that form or that authorization system is for the EU and EFTA member states, and we listed those member states on the right-hand side in the box. So those are the member states or the states. If someone has an ETIAS, then they can travel to those countries. For what is the ETIAS? It is for a short-term stay for up to 90 days in any 180-day period. So if I kind of divide the year into halves, which is basically I'll come up with the 360 days. So in the end, I can also stay maximum 6 months. However, I'm not allowed to stay in one turn. So the Schengen rules, where you maybe have thought as well that you know already the rules about 90 days, maximum staying 90 days in any 180-day period, which is true. That is coming from the Schengen regulation. So that's the maximum period you're allowed to stay. The validity of the ETIAS form is for 3 years, so it's a bit longer. And the cost is also already known. It is for €7. And each individual has to request that individually. So in case someone goes with the family, all of the family members who will travel to one of those ETIAS countries will have to get it if they are required to do so. And we will come to that in a second. The implementation of it, it's yes, it was also planned for this year in November. However, it will be, as said already, most likely mid of next year. We will have to see then when the effective implementation date will be coming up. And as you see, there are so many countries involved, then clearly that takes quite a while until get everybody on board and that everybody has the same processes and procedures implemented. So who needs to get it? Basically, again, it is kind of the same method than the ETA, the UK one. It is for anybody who is visa exempt, so who does not need to get a visa for getting in one of those ETIAS countries. We've listed down now the countries currently on those lists. Who will need such an ETIAS form as soon as it is then implemented. And you will see on that list, United Kingdom is also indicated as one of the countries or nationals who need that. How is the process? The process is the same as in the UK. It is online. Now the change is that the idea is that most of the applications should be approved immediately. So as soon as you have submitted the application and all the information, you should receive immediately then an email confirmation with an ETIAS application number showing that everything is good. You also have to pay, make the payment, but then that should be good. Now, in case it takes longer and you do not get directly an email confirmation with the ETIAS application number, then you should receive within 4 days a decision, or at least the information that further documents or information is required. And then up to 30 days it will take in case of an interview is required. So it's not that it will be refused automatically. It will kind of, if it's not approved immediately, then it will be going to someone looking manual on the application, and therefore it takes a bit longer than until everything has been reviewed. And there are on the slide the deadlines or kind of timelines, better to say, which ETIAS has implemented. Now, in case still the application will not be approved, so it will be refused, the applicant has the possibility to submit within 96 hours additional documents or object on it. And if the applicant has done that, then the authority will come back with a new decision within 4 weeks. So there is a process behind in case something is not working as it should. The ETIAS is as well like the ETA or like the ESTA. We know you can enter the ETIAS member states for multiple times. And it's the same way it works as the ETA. It is linked to the passport you will indicate when you file the application. So in case the passport will change within those 3 years of validity, you will have to submit a new ETS. And that is, again, each person will be reviewed on its own. The information you need to provide to the in that ETS, it's indicated on that slide here. Basically, it's personal information, and it's more or less as well what you had to indicate with the ESTA. In case you have filled out one of those ESTA forms, it's the same information. The checkup behind is as well like the one from the UK. Now here it just goes a bit further, because it will be not just reviewed in case of security and safety issues for the country you are requesting it. It is basically then for the whole Europe, or for all the EU and EFTA member states, it will be reviewed. So in case there was an entry denied to one of those ETIAS member states, then that flags out basically that someone will, an official will review the document, the application manually. Otherwise, it will be, as said, the intention is that it should go through directly and automatically, because they expect that there's a huge number of applications then coming in, and for that reason they try to do as much as possible on an automatic way. One thing which might be very important is that the applicant has a biometric passport. I think in the meantime, in most of the countries, the biometric passport was introduced, and so that is one of the requirements. And the other one is that that passport is exceeding the validity of 3 months after the intended departure date. So on that application form, you need to indicate what the last departure date would be, or and if that's if your passport is still valid for another 3 months, then there is no problem at all. You will have to indicate the first country you will enter the ETIAS area. In case now that will change, and until you travel, then the first you decide to actually go through another country in the ETIAS area, then you may have an issue when entering the country. So you should really try to stick to whatever you had indicated in that form. However, things can also get corrected in case it is you've made a mistake, or there was a mistake. So that is not an issue, and there's a process behind as well to get it quite quickly changed and adjusted. And here is a checklist what you need to do in regard to the ETIAS authorization, as well as the requirements. So you can basically the ETIAS is basically for tourism, business meaning like just business meetings but not working, or any other visa exempt purpose. As said, in case somebody needs to work in one of the ETIAS member states, you need to look up from the specific country what the requirements are and what kind of procedure you need to follow as well. What next? Now, as said, at the moment it is not quite clear when it will be implemented. We definitely will keep you updated on it. And one thing as well, there is one official website on it, which we have indicated here. And if you look or try to find information, you will find lots of others websites as well. Please keep in mind that they might not be the correct ones. So always check back on the official website in case you do want to get additional information. We had a couple of weeks, no, better to say a couple of months back, we had some communication with the people from the ETIAS, and they said it is quite a hassle to with so many different companies setting up their own websites in that regard, and you will always find then different information, as well as the issue is that they can't control it, and maybe then also not check it. So please therefore go always back to that website to see what the information is and what you do need. Otherwise, definitely you can always come back to us as well, and we will provide you with the information. So that's a bit about both authorization forms, the ETA and the ETIAS. It's at least whatever we know at the moment we provided you with. I know maybe it's not having answered all your questions you might had when you joined the Coffee and Consulting. So if you have any kind of questions, then just let me know. There are already a couple. Are the 6 respectively 3 months calculated in a row per single entry or cumulative for multiple entries? For the UK, it can be up to 6 months in one row. For the ETIAS, so for the ETIAS member state, there's only the possibility to have it for up to 90 days in any 180 days period. So that is the difference. I hope that answers your question. And do we have another one? No, that's the only question you had or is coming from you. So I assume it just gave you a good overview on the topic, and I assume then closer to the date when it comes live, you may have additional questions, and as said, we are happy to answer any if you have them. Thank you very much for today's Coffee and Consulting. It was great. And before we close, I'd just like to give you a heads up on our next webinar, which will be on the 25th of May regarding work permits and the current challenges. And then our next seminar will be on the 3rd of October about remote working and workation. And the next Coffee and Consulting will be beginning of June, first Monday in June, about teleworking, home office working, the new regulation which will come now into life regarding Social Security. So we hope we will see you at one of our next events. And for the moment, I just wish you a great week ahead and hopefully not too stressful. Thank you.